Hello, Daniel. How are you?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
I am great. I'm great. I'm great. I really love your series, especially now. Like I'm an advocate for comedy, right? Like I just feel like there's so many ways we can tell the same stories. Let's choose the laughter side, right? You know, one thing I really love about Borders is that it really like puts on display that we're not monolithic, and not even with just the five main characters, but with the other Black characters. How did you go about crafting these different characters?
Um, yeah, it was so important to create very distinct characters. Um, and I think a lot of it was pulling it from my own experiences, to be honest. I think my background is comedy, so even though it's a comedy drama, I think the foundation of everything I make it is comedy, and so I kind of use that comedy model to make very distinct characters. So not only do I want them to 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 be different and to sound different, but even through the casting, I kind of wanted them to look different as well. Um, and I think a lot of it was kind of pulling from my own experiences. I think I went to a university that was predominantly white, predominantly middle class, and there was like a sprinkling of black faces. And we all navigated that space in different ways. And I always found that quite interesting. So I really wanted to kind of like distill that into these characters. Um, and that was my approach. So how those characters approach that situation, whether it's, Jaheim, who, rebels against it, or Femi, who tries to assimilate. I really wanted to make sure that they all approached it in different ways and to kind of show that there's no right or wrong way of approaching these situations. It's these spaces are not they're not built for us. And so it's quite difficult to navigate our way through them. But again, there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah. I feel like season two was very much about who controls our access, because with it kicked off with like, listen, one of y'all gonna be gone, or a couple of y'all gonna be gone, right? And I thought that was so they did it, in the way of scholarship, but outside of one of the characters, they're all very much belong there. They're very very educated. But I thought it was so interesting that it was a larger conversation about like who controls us in these spaces. Why did you decide to make like the main central focus about the scholarship and the like who will be going?
Um, it, it, I suppose it was like that first series. It was about survival in this space, and I thought going into that second series, I wanted something that was, first and foremost, it's a piece of a piece of entertainment, and so I wanted something to grab an audience. And what better way to do it to kind of go out of these five, two of you are going. But I think also from a real place as well is that sometimes we're sometimes put into these spaces and consciously or unconsciously it gets very competitive.
Mm.
um, and I thought that was like a lovely way. I thought that device was a lovely way to kind of show that, and how they all kind of deal with it in different ways. So I think it was a bit of both. I wanted something to kick the series off that really grabs you in, but also makes you kind of think about, yeah, these spaces are constantly having us like battle and compete against one another constantly.
No, that's actually really real. Like yeah, even like when you enter the real world, it never kind of ends. I think that's the one thing I liked about it is because I think they say everything's high school. You never
Okay.
leave high school, right? So in watching this, it's still so reflective of like the real world, you know. I love their camaraderie. Like they are, like you're saying, they're navigating their own spaces in this school, but it just seems like they still have each other's back.
Mhm.
And off screen, how did you develop like their relationship so that because it shows that they really are like protective of one another at the end of the day. How did you go about developing their relationships?
I mean, if truth be told, I mean, they love each other, and if truth be told, that I can't take credit for that. I didn't engineer that, but in saying that, I think it did come off of the back of. I think the characters that they were playing as well, it made them gravitate to one another, and I think it's kind of I don't know, it's a bit like that the black person nod when you're the only black person in a very white space. I think it's partly that as well, and I think it's lovely hearing the actors talk about the show as well because they all talk about bringing their own personal experiences from it. So I think there's like a relatability and a believability and a connection with these characters, and I think they're all interconnected because they're all in that same struggle. So I think that's how they kind of became close knit. And then also, I think it's just because they are like lovely people. They're like lovely people, and they're also quite young as well. So for some of them, it was their first on-screen acting job. For some of them, it was their first acting job period.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So people like Seku, who plays Toby, it was his first acting job. Um,
Yes.
yeah, he nailed it, and I think they were constantly watching one another, learning from one another, helping one another, and I think that's what made that group. I think that's why they shine so much on screen. It's because they're really there for one another, and when the cameras turn off, it's exactly the same.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Absolutely love that. Um, so this season we get a Black American, which I find really interesting because I feel like, me being from America, it's always, the opposite. So watching her enter this space is rather interesting. And then also watching like this frenemy build, it's also
Mm.
rather interesting. Um, why was it is why was it important for her to join, or was that just like in general to join the series for this season? And why was it important to have tension between the two Black girls?
I think we definitely wanted to bring a another black girl into the mix, and when we were in the writers' room, we were throwing around ideas of what this character could be, and I think like a black British woman and a black American woman, they are the same but worlds apart. And I think it was like really interesting to kind of bring in a whole new black experience into that surroundings. With Brits, it's very much about, and stop me if I'm wrong, but I think race plays so much of a bigger part in America, whereas in Britain we have race, but class is such a big thing. And so um, we really wanted to kind of play with that dynamic. And then when we wanted them to kind of go head to head, I think it was from a personal point of view where I was just like, I think to start a series, I think you almost know that in some ways, these two black girls are going to get along. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be interesting to kind of play them against one another? And it's not from a personal thing. It's this environment in which you are almost felt like you should compete with one another. And one thing I love about all the characters is that they've all got these teenage flaws where it's like it's not you, it's your environment, and it's this space that's making you feel this way. And I really wanted to take Leah on that journey to be a bit like to understand how these things can happen and how these spaces can make you perceive people in certain different ways. Um, so I really wanted to take Leah on that journey.
You know what? So actually, the Black girl not getting along with the Black girl is something that's heavy on this side. So I found that that quite interesting. And I agree. I do think in America it's a lot more racism versus I didn't realize it's more classism. So interesting. Like the Black experience is so interesting, when you speak to people all over. What do you hope this show does? Because it is a really, really good show. On top of the comedy, there's a lot of social commentary. What do you hope this show does for more shows like this?
Um, you know, I feel like our stories are so interesting, and there's so many of our stories that haven't been told. I think when whenever I talk about borders, I think people are always surprised that we've just never done it before. And I think it's because our stories are not always told. Um, but it goes to show like how important these stories are and how interesting they are, and like the fact that we can delve into these parts of society that we just don't know how they operate, and shine a lens on them. I think it kind of, I'm hoping that it will kind of give the people that give the thumbs up and thumbs down to shows to invest and believe in these shows, because there's an audience for them, and it's stories that have not been told, and it has universal appeal. I think even though this show it's about five black leads, the people that watch it really spans race, ages, class. So I think even though it's a very specific story to me and to the black experience, it's a very universal story because everyone knows what it's like to feel isolated or left out. Everyone has been to some kind of school, in some kind of education system, and knows what it's like to have to work hard to compete. All these themes I kind of cover. I just do it through a black lens.
Yeah, I didn't realize when I was watching the first season, I didn't realize that I never seen a show like this. Like I was so taken aback because I'm like, there had to have been like a show there, but there's a lot of shows. I've seen a lot of shows where we're centering on kids in school and the teenage years and all of that, but never once with five black leads, and it's specifically centered at a school.
Mm.
And so I was so wildly surprised that I'm like in 2020, when is 2024, 20, this is just now coming out. It's crazy, you know?
It's so
And
true.
it's so crazy. So I appreciate you, because now it sort of feels like to be original or to do something original, it's not that it's a crazy thing, but it's so surprising when we see it now, you know?
100%.
Yeah. So thank you for that. And lastly, hopefully, we see a third season. Where are you hoping to expand the storylines?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it's so funny. It's like, it really feels like I've just skimmed the surface. I mean, we've never even met Toby's parents or Omar's parents or Leah's parents. Um, there's so much of their background that we've not kind of explored. I think it's always lovely when I kind of, put them in new relationships as well, which is really exciting as well. So I've had like a writer's room, and we've had like ideas and stuff. We've not had the green light or anything like that, but like we're well prepared and prepped for when it comes. But it's endless, and I think there's so much more fun to be had, and I kind of hope people have seen, that series one was really about those characters surviving in that environment. Series two is much more about them thriving in it and like, making more connections. And I think for series three, I want to do kind of more of that. Like, even though there's so many challenges and so much pressure on them, this is still essentially their home, and they grow to love it despite the challenges that they're up against, and they build a family. And I think I really want to delve into that more and like really embed them even more.
Oh man, listen, I want a third season. So
Good, I'm glad.
yeah, because I want more backstory. Like I want to meet the parents. So
Get get everyone to watch it, because yeah. Because we got ideas. We got ideas. So get everyone to watch it.
I'll do my part. But thank you so, so much. I really do love this show. It's very refreshing, it's very enjoyable, and we definitely need it. So thank you.
Thank you so much.